President of Chicago Leadership Network, Ms. Whatsack. Chairman of the Network Development Committee, which was the committee responsible for gathering everybody together today. We'll switch over to Jane here pretty quickly. But the beginnings of this actually took part over 2 years ago. Remember, a lot of us took part in the CLN strategic planning process. A couple get-togethers at North County and South County, a lot of follow-up meetings, a lot of stuff pasted, taped, paper clipped to walls, taken out the dozens and dozens and dozens of ideas that people thought the next incarnation of CLN wanted to be, was on those walls and actually came into a report that came to the Chicago Leadership Network and actually set up the structure where we're in today, including which was a lot of discussion, a lot of requests, a lot of ideas, thinking about what if we did our own TED Talk that was CLN oriented? Why not do that? And that discussion came to network development. We started a new network development committee set up early last year. And I'm very fortunate we have a subcommittee of that committee, which includes Jane Fisher, who is going to be introducing here in a little bit, but also Tracy Collingwood as well as a member of the committee who took it upon themselves. Over a year we were talking about this to get this going, and we're finally to the part where we're in fruition. We're doing good. So we're hoping this is the first of many. We've got a waiting list for the next speakers to come along, which we're very happy about, and we're hoping to have some good things and good dialogue. And this is great because we're having plans are to put it on the website, the new CLN website, so not only can CLN members take a look at it, but everybody on the World Wide Web and internationally can look at it as well. So with that, thank you very much for coming this evening, and we'll get started. Jane Fisher, come on up.
Welcome to CLN's Got Talent. Tonight you're going to see jug bands, dancing dogs, and acapella remixes of Engelbert Humperdinck's finest hits. Being told that's not what we're doing. We're doing CLN Talks. I'm also being told that I don't actually have an earpiece. So, what we're going to be doing tonight is telling short 7-minute stories thereabouts. Please don't hold us to the exact math. There's not going to be any buzzers, there's not going to be any shepherd's hook on the stage. But the 7 stories in 7 minutes each is a guideline. So that's what we're hoping for, to hear just short stories about who we all are, how we all got here, and just interesting bits about ourselves. One of the reasons that this sits in network development is because a developed, connected network involves people knowing each other and who we are, rather than just what's on your business card, what class were you in, who are we, what are our stories, what got us here, where are we going. So we're going to be hearing these stories tonight. And our first speaker is going to be talking about embracing strengths. Please welcome Carrie Brown, class of 2008.
So if it works. Okay. So we're going to take it back to 1985, one day when my parents came home from work, and they had received my first kindergarten report card. They expected to see the usual things about me developing ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but they also saw something else. A comment that read, Carrie tends to want to manage others a little too much. So, there's this whole concept of nature versus nurture, and I truly feel this was my nature emerging. I didn't know it at the time, but this was basically the start of my leadership journey. I want you all to think back to when your nature first started to emerge. How old were you when some of those innate strengths first started to show? As a 5-year-old, I was completely oblivious to what my strengths were. But I remember finding that report card years later and asking my mom about it, and she sat and told me stories about my personality at that age. And I had to laugh. Because those of you who know me know I can have a pretty strong personality. And I got a lot of feedback about that growing up. Carrie, you're an A student with an F student's attitude. Carrie, you have no tact. Carrie, let's face it, patience is not one of your virtues. Partly based on that feedback, I started to develop my sense of self. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm sassy, bossy, pushy, but I also knew I had a ton of passion, and other teachers recognized that too. This is a yearbook entry from my 7th grade algebra teacher, and she called me a small keg of dynamite with a great personality. She liked it, but for some, I think dynamite was a little too much. And so it got to a point in college where I had to admit, people either seemed to really like me, or they immediately disliked me. And I needed to do something about it because I wanted everyone to like me. I also can't help but point out that the yearbook entry below this is addressed to She-Ra, you know, the Princess of Power. I wonder if she cared if people liked her. Probably not, but I did. So, in college, I was a communications major, and I was introduced to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This was like the holy grail of self-improvement to me. I thought, wow, if I could just reach self-actualization and be all I'm meant to be, well, that would just be my life's goal. And it's funny because it still is in a lot of ways, but I also realized life is a lot more complex than a two-dimensional pyramid. I was blessed from the time I was born to have my basic needs and beyond met. So in college, I was probably hovering somewhere around the esteem level. And I thought, I'm just gonna go for it. I went on a crusade of self-awareness because I thought, if I'm gonna reach my full potential, then I need to figure out what's wrong with me, what people don't like, and I need to fix it. So what did I do? I spent the next decade focusing on my weaknesses. And it pretty much felt like I was swimming against a current the entire time. I did not take criticism well. One, if someone tried to give me feedback, I thought, I'm aware. And two, I honestly think I was feeling pretty low about myself. I knew I had skills, I knew I could do the work of my jobs, but I couldn't even answer the question when my boss asked me, Carrie, what are your strengths? Because I was so focused on my weaknesses. I was having a very hard time recognizing my nature as my strength. At this point, maybe you're thinking, Carrie sure had a lot of time to sit around and think about herself. But I'll tell you, that only lasted for so long, because then my husband and I decided to start a family. And I became a mother. And everything changed. It is a love like no other. And somewhere along the way of keeping tiny humans alive, I realized I want to be the best person I can be for them. My family, my friends, the people who really matter, and most importantly for myself. So I started making some changes with a lot of encouragement and support from my family and friends, especially my husband Kyle. I found a new job with Bellevue University, which has allowed me the greatest work-life balance I could ever imagine. I started seeing a life coach. I began investing in my health and wellness. I also re-engaged with CLN around this time, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. I joined the program development committee, and it has been an amazing experience working with Donna Flinchball. I also had the opportunity to find a new retreat facilitator for CLN as part of our strategic planning process, and Kirk Young and Kyle Reyes is who we started working with. And they brought us this concept of strength-based leadership. It's the assessment we use for the incoming class now, and I took it. And it wasn't necessarily the assessment itself that gave me any aha moments. You know, it's always great to see your strengths in a new light. But what really struck me was just the simple concept itself. To be a better leader, a better person, you focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. That was a revelation for me. And it made me realize, you know, it just made me ask the question, what if we actually focused on what we loved about ourselves instead of what we hated or what we thought people hated? I came to the realization that self-awareness without self-love is self-destructive, and it's counterproductive. When you focus on your weaknesses, you lose confidence. When you focus on your strengths, you gain confidence. And it doesn't mean that you don't work to improve your weaknesses, you just approach it in a much more balanced way. It really gives you the confidence you need to be honest with yourself, to grow from that, and also to lead. Part of CLN's mission is to nurture leaders. The nature is out there. The talents and strengths of the people in our community, it's just amazing. The leaders, our colleagues, and our next generation of leaders. According to Gallup research, I already did that, okay. According to Gallup research, employees are 8 times more likely to feel engaged if the organization they work for focuses on their strengths. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Because there's a baby, and I was talking about babies. So anyways, according to Gallup research, employees are 8 times more likely to feel engaged if the organization they work for focuses on their strengths. And that's going to be good for the organization, and ultimately the well-being of the individual. If you constantly focus on what's wrong with your employees, they will lose the confidence to do their job, and their productivity will suffer, and so will their business. Through all of this, I've learned that no one's going to magically reach their full potential and stay there. It's an ongoing process, and one that honestly takes a lot of work. But I'm also beginning to realize that in doing the work, you have the opportunity to impact something far greater than just the self. Revisiting Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I discovered he added another dimension in his later years, self-transcendence, which basically says the self can only achieve actualization in giving itself to a higher purpose. And then I found this quote by David Viscott, which basically brings it all together for me. And it basically says, you know, the purpose of life is to discover your gift. The work of life is to develop it. And the meaning of life is to give your gift away. No one will ever be perfect. People aren't always going to like you. You aren't always going to like people, and sometimes you won't even always like yourself. But if we can just shift our thinking to focus on the good, the positives, and the gifts that we all bring to the table, and share it with each other, it just might be the thing that we all need to reach our full potential. I encourage you each to embrace your gifts. Do the work to strengthen them, and then go and share them with others, so in turn they can feel inspired to do the same. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to hear a story about how leadership is really a lifelong journey. It's a process. It's a story of who we are. Presenting that story will be Justin Haft, class of 2013.
Thank you, Jane, and thanks everybody for being here. I'm really excited. I just first want to start, before I start walking you down that journey, the Chautauqua Leadership Network has been instrumental in my life. It's provided me a world of opportunity. When I first came back to Chautauqua County, I was struggling to find a career, and I jumped in head first and decided to continue to hone my leadership skills and my leadership ability through this great network, and it's never turned its back on me. I've developed more relationships and more friendship from the people a part of this network than I can repay. So I'm very fortunate for that and very appreciative. The first two things that I want to kind of touch on are really two paradigm shifts that I had growing up in my leadership journey. And the first one is when I studied a little bit of Simon Sinek, and his big thing is the power of why. And never to underestimate sort of the power of why. Really, ultimately, what that does is it helps you get to the core to find your purpose, right? To find your belief. To discover exactly what you're passionate about, and what drives you, what motivates you, what inspires great leaders and what inspires great organizations to action, and gets them to action, is that they can speak from the inside out. So he's most prominently known for what has been coined the golden circle. And the way he sort of explains it is from the outside, most organizations, most marketing that we see on a day-to-day basis, okay, speaks to us from the outside in. Okay? I'm a computer company. I sell great computers. You should buy my computers because they have a high-speed processor, right? Will you buy it? That's from the outside in. He argues that you should speak from the inside out. Take a company like Apple, for example. We're the best organization in the world because we want to change the the basis for how we do business. And that really spoke to me as a young child growing up. I sort of was studying his stuff and started reading a lot of leadership books, probably in high school. And it just sort of changed my shifting because I could see how fundamental those principles were and how they applied to everything that I did. In school, in work, in family. It just was completely fundamental. The next leadership activity that I did was read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And his 7 habits were sort of a go-to guide for me when I went away to college and just wanted to better myself in anything that I did. I sort of always went back to try to find some sort of example as to how I could apply those 7 principles in my day-to-day life. And it was just instrumental to me. And it really changed the way I viewed things and changed my perspective. So enough of that leadership talk, a little bit more about me, okay, and my background. You see 2 pictures on the screen here. The one on the left is an overview of beautiful Chautauqua Lake. I probably should have found a high-definition resolution picture, but it's still a pretty picture of Chautauqua Lake. That's where I grew up. I actually was born and raised right in Venus Point, New York. My parents had a house right on the lake. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, right? You can spend all your time and energies out on the lake, boating, jet skiing, all that kind of fun stuff. Well, I grew up in a separated household. So that's where I was during the week, 5 days a week. But on the weekends and all summer and every vacation, I was spending time at my dad's in East Ottawa, New York. Which brings me to the picture on the right. And in East Ottawa, there's more cows than there are people. And we also had a lot of cows. So quickly eliminate the vision of spending time with your friends that you're growing up going to school with on jet skis, vacationing seems like every weekend. Envision more of a child that grew up cutting fence posts, fixing fence, and carrying steers like that one back to the barn, making sure that they're fed and ready to go. I will say, fast forward to today, that farm is a lot more advanced than it was when it was first starting. So my brothers, they don't know the real pain of what it takes to actually get into a manure spreader with a pitchfork, not the ones that have the fancy stuff that throw the manure, but the ones that you actually have to throw out yourself. Maybe that's why I'm 270 pounds, I don't know. This picture actually is my family, and they are my wife. So jumping back to the first slide. That's my wife, Molly, of 8 years, which I'm very proud of. And my 2 children, Madison, she's my stepdaughter, she's going to be 12 in September, and my son Wyatt, who just turned 3 back in March. Madison wants to be a marine biologist. I work in workforce development here in Chautauqua County. I don't think there's a big requirement for a lot of marine biologists, so I still have a lot of work to do as far as trying to create a career alignment, but we're letting her sort of set those goals for herself right now and keeping those dreams alive. Yeah, so they're definitely my life. Come from a very large family. Go ahead and take that picture and multiply it by 8. So as I just mentioned in the previous slide, I come from a separated family, and my wife comes from a separated family. And both of our parents have both been remarried. So the Christmas times, have anyone seen that movie 4 Christmases? Yeah, that's us. We're traveling all over the place, okay? So this is just my mom's side of the family at a family gathering. It's probably one of the cousins' birthdays. So we're pretty busy. There's something going on either every weekend or every day of the week. One funny thing that I like to say about myself is that I have a stepsister, a stepbrother, 2 half-brothers, and an adopted brother. Other than that, I'm an only child. So in this photo, you see my stepsister Rebecca at the top, and that's her husband Chris, who's from Germany actually. And then at the far right, that's my stepbrother Mike. Rebecca is a clinical psychologist, and Mike is an executive with Teach for America. This is my brother Antoine. He's currently a physical therapist assistant right in Jamestown, so he's still local, which is fortunate. So Rebecca and Mike, they're all over the place. They're big city people. Back home is too small for them. These are my 2 half-brothers that I was talking about, Ryan and Matthew. They're grown up now. They're not quite that little anymore. They're actually big. Matthew's even bigger than me. He's probably about 6'4", 220 pounds. He still thinks he can take me, which is not quite accurate. This is actually, so these are my sister-in-laws, Emily and Elizabeth, who they both married now, so our family continues to grow. Japanese research shows that humans are more productive when we're staring at funny, fuzzy creatures. So for the next 60 seconds, we're just going to look at some funny animals. I'm not a big cat guy, but cats in baskets, I mean, come on. Oh, a rabbit, he's hopping in like that, you see that? That's what I'm going to do later when I'm stretched out and tired. It's been a long day, but that's all right. And there's again cats in baskets. Okay, so you can't really see this picture, but you can see in the background a little bit. This is actually the best line ever from Alfred University back in 2007. I was fortunate enough to continue my athletic experience, and sports has been very instrumental in my life. That's where I've derived a lot of my leadership experiences. It taught me a lot of work ethic, that type of stuff. I obtain a lot of that type of stuff. I'm very fortunate now to be able to try to give back to my local community as I just accepted a head coaching football job at Maple Grove High School. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. And sports were so instrumental in keeping me on the straight and narrow and teaching me a whole bunch of stuff that you see up there. Last but not least, because I see that I'm running a little bit short on time, my mom. I've been a a mama's boy since day one. I'm not ashamed to say that. And she has been, by far, my guiding light. And so instrumental in my life in teaching me all these different types of leadership experiences. And I think first and foremost, she's just always been there to answer the phone and just show me an endless amount of love. And I think that's, as a leader, that's the most important thing. Thank you.
And next, we're going to hear a story on leadership in the everyday and the value of being human, and ideally, a good human. Jennifer Wilkins, class of 2017.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Jennifer, and I am a leader. I am guilty of using we before me. I plan, I set goals. Sometimes I succeed and often I fail, but I always learn from everything that I do. I remember my first CLN experience a little over a year ago at the weekend retreat, where I had the opportunity to answer the time-old question that just about every leadership conference ever asks you to reflect upon, which is, who is your inspiration? You know, what inspires you? Is there a famous person that represents leadership to you? Or who is it that nominated you? As everybody went around the room at this leadership retreat, I slowly panicked. Matt probably remembers this, that in that moment, everybody talks about a famous author, musician, someone that they really look up to, and I panicked because I don't have that person. And I even said to the class, I don't have a person, but my goal is by the end of CLN, I will have a person. This is one of those examples where I did fail. I don't have a person still, right? But I no longer have to say, I grew up in a box, I don't know who that famous person is, I don't know that author, the MTV star, but instead I know where I come from, which is a farm life. So it wasn't in a box where I grew up, it was out on the farm, so thanks to Justin for bringing up that reference as well. So the reason I bring this up is, this is what influences me. It taught me work ethic, and I learned a lot of tough lessons and a lot of great lessons from everything on the farm. Some of them include learning how to organize my cats in a Fisher-Price grocery cart and wheel them down the cart at the barn. Or a really tough lesson, getting booted by a ram and flying across the yard, just days before he became dinner. His name was Harvey. For most, it might be funny to think, I knew the names of what was on my dinner plate, and vegetarians won't appreciate that, but for me, it was a part of life. And it represented who I was and the work ethic that was surrounding me. So even after I moved off of the farm, cats and animals still continue to influence my life. In 4th grade, my parents sat me down for a difficult conversation. I was brought to the kitchen. I said, Jen, we're moving to Buffalo. Land of the snow, Buffalo Bills, an indoor pool, my mom getting a big promotion. You think most people would be very nervous about this and thinking, how am I going to make new friends? My first question, can Teddy Bear come with me? That was all that I needed. All I needed to confirm in this big move across the state, central New York to western New York, was can Teddy Bear come with me? And I bring that up because I knew even at that point, as my leadership journey was beginning, well, far, but a long time ago, that I knew that I needed that comfort. The people that surround you, you're not a leader alone. You need to bring those that support you best. Well into my high school years, I could be easily distracted by horses. So all throughout my life, I knew Denise would love to appreciate the horse reference. So this is a picture of Nitez. Nitez represents the hard work and perfection it takes to compete in a horse show, whether it's here in Western New York or Central New York or all the way up to Canada. It was something that I spent many long hours with. And even after getting stepped on by a 2,000-pound horse, I still endlessly begged my parents to get one for me. And while I didn't get to that choice, that opportunity, I did ask for my 16th birthday for my very own saddle. A lot of people ask for their car. I wanted a saddle for my horse. And so this perfectly timed photo, you can see it a little bit here. None of Nitez's feet are touching the ground. For me, this represents, that idea of working for a boss, a supervisor, in this case, a judge, where I earned a grand champion. And I was floating across, through life, and I was well, and I was successful. In college, I was represented by a prairie dog. So a cute, fuzzy animal. At the zoo, I found comfort in the prairie dogs, and I was incentivized to earn good grades, and my parents would let me get a prairie dog. That buried down, created little networks of her own. Her name was Paprika. She was the spice of my life. Right? Actually, so her belly, you can't see it too well in this picture, but it has kind of a reddish hue, which emulates that color of the guy. It's pretty intense. But so the reason I bring up the networking component with her is they do build networks and tunnels. That's where their homes are. And in this opportunity, this is where my formal leadership training began with my dad. He was a home inspector. He came down to Fredonia to inspect many homes for Fredonia leaders, and that's how I was nominated to participate in the leadership development program as a sophomore in college, and then formally grow from there to resident assistant, a residence director, and then move on from there. I fast forward a little bit more. A cute pregnant, or not a pregnant kitten. We've got about 4 or 5 kittens there. This is our cat Molly. I bring this up because when I was 7.5 months pregnant with my son Charlie, the vice president called me into his office and said, "Jen, can you assume an acting assistant vice president role for student affairs?" I'm 7.5 months pregnant. You know, but you don't say no when you're asked to rise to the challenge, right? That's what every good leader knows. You figure out, how am I going to make this work? 7.5 months pregnant, I have a limited amount of time. And I did. I proved myself I was successful right up until the day before I gave birth. At that point, you know, I found that I could grow in my career. I found a new passion and where I wanted to be. First, as an education major, I love children, but I slowly realized that the transition from wanting children to be a part of my life to having them be a part of my family was even more important. So I built my family, I got it to where I wanted it to be, and then you know, I had all the positions. And then from there comes this cute picture of my son Charlie with his first pet. Now, when life hands you lemons, you're on top of the world, right? You make lemonade. That's the saying. In my case, it was spiked lemonade. I needed that spiked lemonade. I had the perfect life, kid, family, great job, good career. Divorce hit me hard. I built up this life that I was proud of, that my grandparents were proud of. I gave them all a first grandson, a great-great-grandson even. So for me, I had to take a step back and reevaluate what was important to me, what meant the most to me, and it was him. It was Charlie, right? And the way that he looked at that animal. This was his very first pet. Did I mention I was a hall director for 10 years living on campus? This was the only fuzzy pet I was allowed to have. So it was in the twinkle of his eyes as he looked at that pet, and he found that connection. He was too young to recognize divorce, but for me, it was a reminder of what was important in life. And so that's kind of where I bring this picture up into play. Now, fast forward a few more years, I grew my own farm. I go back to my childhood days. You know, what was important to me? What did I value most? It was a farm. It was a family. Right? It was the people that surrounded me. And Charlie and I grew by 4 new individuals, my husband and his 3 children. But we also grew a farm much larger than that. It may be hard to see or count in this picture. Thankfully, we maxed out at 15 guinea pigs, 2 dogs, and a cat that came and went constantly. So our list of prayers grew each night. And I bring this up because it allowed us the opportunity to be thankful. I taught Charlie as we separated and went through hard times the value of being thankful, of being present where we are, and recognizing those that helped us to get where we are. So all of you here today as colleagues, as friends, of course my family, my forever husband, they are a part of my journey. They're part of who made me a good leader. And I think it's important to recognize that I built my own personal board of directors, and you can all do the same. Thank you.
We're going to continue to hear about the power of relationships, and one in particular. For our next speaker, Matt Mascott, class of 2017 as well.
Thanks. I just want to start by Bree Aggie is out in the hall, and I was wondering how to start this all out. And the other day, I was out with Bree and her husband Zach, and Bree said, "You know, you probably don't have very much that's interesting to say. Kind of a boring guy." It's like, yeah, maybe. But I think I'm pretty even-keeled, kind of don't rock the boat. Someone's really sanding down my edges. And the person I'm talking about today is my wife, Mary. Let's start with this one. Mary and I have been together since we were 15. This is actually when we were 18. I had the bright idea of wearing this on our class trip to Toronto, Canada. So this is around the time we're graduating from high school. So as you can see, Mary got a lot to work with. A lot of sharp edges, And even going back further, let's say when I was 14, pretty much quiet kid, kind of nerdy, self-reserved, didn't really go out much. But then, lo and behold, starting on the football team, wrestling, someone starts to take notice, and if you have that opportunity, I think you go for it. And so I asked Mary to go out, and kind of my whole life has changed ever since. You'll see that there are 7 pictures of Mary and I. So it's, not to spoil the show, but I'll try and tie in some of my leadership lessons throughout our life together. So I guess this one is, take a swing and punch way above your weight, because, she might just say yes, or you might just get the promotion you're looking for or something else. But obviously, I was way out of my league, and the opportunity arose. So Mary and I, we went to separate colleges. We did the living apart, long distance relationship. She was down in Virginia, I was in Pennsylvania. We both graduated early from college, but Mary got 2 degrees, I got 1. And this is obviously a photo of our wedding. So as you can see, you can probably guess I'm a pretty great dancer. No, I'm not. But Mary had the great idea of doing a choreographed dance. So obviously I was super thrilled. Reminiscing on this, and I looked back through hundreds of pictures to come up with these 7. It was really a great experience. So we really buckled down, did the lessons. I stepped on a lot of feet, literally, and it was a really special moment in our life. So leadership lesson number 2: do things that scare you, follow someone else's lead, and really go after things that can round you out and be part of the team effort. And speaking of leading, here's a picture of Mary leading us on camels on the beach in Morocco. So after we got married, we moved to Pittsburgh, and then to Washington, and then to London, where I finished up my law school degree. And as part of that, I said, give me all the classes on Tuesday, Thursday, because we're traveling. So this was one of our trips to Morocco, and other than just being a really cool photo, it kind of gives the idea of kind of handing the reins over to someone, because the way the camels work, and particularly in this instance, is that my camel followed her camel. So it's really handing over the reins and letting someone lead you through tough parts in life. And this is particularly relevant for Mary and me, because we have kind of not offsetting personalities, but balancing personalities. I'm the kind of person who's like, yep, let's do it, let's go. And Mary's like, wait a second, what do we think, man? Okay? So, hearing all these stories about farms, I am also not an aspiring farmer, a wannabe farmer, as you can probably see from the overalls. We have chickens now, and I want pigs and goats and cows and things. And Mary's like, wait a minute, pump the brakes. We have some things going on. So it's really good to have someone that you trust completely to lead you through different decisions. And also someone strong enough to carry you through the difficult times. Obviously Mary did throw out her back, and I was pretty big at this point. Someone strong enough to be there for you, and to really be supportive in a team as part of some of your tougher times in life. So this is, we're at my law school graduation at Georgetown, and after that, we lived and worked in Washington for a while, and started to have kids. So obviously this adorable little baby is the cutest baby around. Avery May, who was born in 2013. We're on top of a mountain in New Hampshire. And as everyone who has spoken about their kids has attested, obviously having children changes your life. But there are goals that we still have with children. We are living to keep them alive and to keep them happy and to keep them educated. I have the chickens more so for their sake, this is my argument, than to myself, but really I want them to have the most complete experience in the world. So as I mentioned, at this point we're in Washington, and so here's some strategic leadership. My wife, we both knew we didn't want to stay in DC. So my wife wanted to move down south, where there aren't 7 months of winter. And I said, well, wait a minute, let me take the New York bar, okay, because to practice law is state specific. So I said, my brother, he's bound to get arrested at some point, and he's back home, so I'll have to come home and represent him in case he gets in trouble. And she said, well, that's pretty good. It's like, your brother is nothing but trouble. So I took the New York bar. We ended up having a second kid, and that's Jack. And I was like, wow, your parents and my parents both being at home, this is a really good situation. So we ended up moving home. As you can see, this is Panama Rocks. Last summer we have Jack with his belly out, Avery who's being like Fairy, and Stella, our newest Western New York baby, on my belly there. And we're all, we're outnumbered now, plain so. But it's good because we're a team, and we've had 16 years together to kind of know each other. One important thing about parenthood that we find is part of, and I guess this is leadership, is keeping things light. There are stressful times, kids are screaming, pooping, there's mess everywhere. So, particularly this winter, we've come up with this ingenious game called the diaper game, where you have the chance to throw a diaper that you change at the other parent. So it really keeps things exciting. There are a bunch of rules. I only have 7 minutes, so check with me afterwards if you really want to know the secrets of the diaper game. So ultimately, we have a very happy family here. We're living in Western New York. We're thriving. And I try to intersperse some leadership in there. But I'll leave you with this last one, which is an interesting picture. You suspect that this might be my kid's preschool, but no. This is Mary in my preschool photo. So I'll tell you that this handsome devil right here is me, and this is my lovely wife Mary. So leaving you with the opportunity for special connections and opportunities is everywhere around you, even in the 3-year-old preschool class. Obviously, it's going to take her about 12 years to realize what a great guy is 2 people over, or me to gain the courage to actually talk to them. So, with that, thank you all, and this was a pleasure.
Next up, we're going to hear about what one person suggests we do when life offers unexpected moments and how we might roll with them, sometimes quite literally. Amy Roller, class of 2013.
So we live in a world that is very unpredictable, and nothing can be predicted, and you can't control the future or what happens to you. And the truth is, it's always been this way. But with our Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook world, it seems like it's more so, that things are changing faster than ever, which means less control and less time to know which direction to move in, and less idea of how we're going and how we're going to get there, which is a very scary kind of thing. About 4 years, I had a very embodied experience of this fact. I was 40 weeks pregnant with my second child, and actually I was 1 day past my due date when I was on a Saturday afternoon working at the Gateway Center in my office when something unexpected happened. I slipped on a little bit of water, and I fell, and in the blink of an eye, I found myself on the floor, curled up against the desk. I didn't know how I'd gotten there, and I looked down at my body, and I realized that my knee was completely and utterly dislocated. I put this in a GIF format so you would know. So my knee was supposed to be right here in this location, but as I looked over, it was on the side of my leg, and I'm telling you, it hurt a lot. And that day, I said some words that were not very respectable. They were definitely not pastoral, and they're certainly not repeatable in this setting where, as I understand it, I'm being recorded. So that dislocation really hurt. It hurt when the EMTs arrived, and they attempted to put me on the stretcher, and the force of gravity pulled my knee even further down, and it hurt as they transferred me into the ER, and it hurt as I got there, and the ER doctor said to me, you know, usually when we're going to put the dislocation back into place, we give you narcotics to dull the pain, but because you are 40 weeks pregnant, and there's a good chance that you're going to go into labor in the next 6 hours, I need to tell you that if you take those narcotics, there's a very good chance that your baby is going to have to suffer some very serious respiratory distress. So you need to decide, what are you going to do? Now I admit, I thought about it for about 30 seconds because did I mention that it was really painful? But my parenting better self took over, and I was like, no drugs, just put it back into place, and bam! He slammed his hand right inside of my knee, and he popped it back into place. And I screamed some more of those unrepeatable. But I'll tell you, I felt immediately better, which did not mean that I was not pain-free, because there was still going to be a lot of recovery and weeks of physical therapy, because all the muscles and the tendons had been stretched out in ways that they never should have been pulled. And in fact, my knee has actually never been the same since because of that unpredictable blink of an eye moment. And it certainly wasn't how I planned to give birth to my daughter, which, by the way, happened the very next day. So since that day, dislocation has begun to be a very generative metaphor for my life. I began to realize that all of us at some point, or even multiple points in our lives, will experience dislocation. Now, for your sake, I hope it's not an actual bone dislocation, but we might go through an emotional dislocation, or a career or job dislocation, or a geographical dislocation if we move from DC to Jamestown, or an intellectual or political dislocation like many of us are going through right now, or a spiritual dislocation, or a relational dislocation, the relationships with people that we deeply love both begin and end. Like I said, it's when everything is out of place and not where it should be, and it probably happens in a way that is very outside of your control, in a way that cannot be predicted, and I'm telling you, it will be at best uncomfortable and unsettling, and it will be at worst incredibly painful. It's going to hurt. It's going to make you anxious. You will probably not like it. You may not know how or when or even why it happened. But I promise you that your life will get put back into place after whatever dislocating experience that you have. And the pain will go away, even though what's true is that your life is never going to be the same afterwards. You are going to be inexorably changed by that experience, but it will be okay. Like I said, the metaphor of dislocation has become a very generative metaphor for my life. And what that means is that it is life-giving, that it continues to generate meaning over and over again in a variety of ways, in a variety of settings. Like this past year when I shaved the head of my friend Julie, who found out, against all odds, and all statistics, and anything you could have predicted or imagined, that she had uterine cancer at the age of 39. And her first question to the doctor when she found this out was, am I going to die? And the second question was, will I lose my hair? And here's the thing you need to know about Julie. Her hair is kind of her thing. Like, it's almost like her identity. In high school, when she graduated, she was given the superlative of best hair. No joke, okay? Who gets that? And so when she and two other friends of ours sat in her kitchen on January 1st, 2018, to shave that hair, it was an incredibly dislocating experience for her, but also for us. See, there was no training. There was no class I could have taken, no webinar I could have watched, no viral video I could have watched. No experience I had ever had could possibly prepare me for that experience that night. As we laid hands on her head, and we took turns with the electric clippers watching her hair fall to the floor. And they wrote a liturgy for the occasion, and so we prayed to God for her hair, and we read Holy Scripture, and we recited poetry, and did more than a few shots of whiskey. How else do you prepare someone to lose their identity except to do all of those things all at the same time, interspersed with tears and awkward silence? It was spiritual dislocation, and it was emotional dislocation, and her whole identity was pulled out of place that night in painful ways because things were not where they should be. Her hair was on the floor and not on her head, and she would never be the same again. And we said some unrepeatable words that night, but not because they were swear words, but because they were sacred. And they were unrepeatable because they were for that particular time and that particular place and none other. And I truly think it was those sacred words that helped her know deep within her bones, even after she saw her bald head staring back at her in the mirror and found it to be so dislocating, it helped her to know that she was going to be okay. This is Julie and my daughter Calla, and they're both okay. Just one more thing I have to say about dislocation. About a year ago, I found myself in the ER again with Calla. She had a really bad case of croup, and she was ironically having serious respiratory distress. And as I sat on the ER bed waiting for the breathing treatment to take effect, there was a man that walked into my room. And he said, "Ms. Roller, do you know who I am?" And I looked at him, and I had no idea who he was. Or I didn't know his name, I'll say, but I knew exactly who he was. And I said to him, "You're the doctor that popped my knee back into place." And he said, "Is that the baby?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's her." But here's my point. You remember the people who put your life back into place. And you remember the people whose lives you put back into place. And I think it's the relocations that matter just as much as the dislocations. And to me, what it means to be a leader is I think we're the ones who help put dislocated lives back into place. And as we do so, we help people to realize things are going to change. They're really going to change. I mean, they are seriously going to change. But it's going to be okay. Thank you.
Staying sort of along with this theme, we're going to hear a bit about how to find and excel in your discomfort zone with Barry Yoakum, the senior presenter tonight, class of 1997.
So there was an email that went out 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe, saying, "Hey, what's your recommendation for having people come and speak at the CLN TED Talk and such?" I put a list together, and I listened with Amy Roller. Little did I know that I'd be following Pastor Amy Roller. Very good job. Appreciate it. I've seen her speak before many times, and which I'm very happy to bring her. But please, that gets into this. Which one? Big one? There we go. All right. Find your discomfort level. Believe me, I'm no shorter, more discomfortable than I am. I'm more discomfortable now than I was 10 minutes ago. Just good. Having everybody speaking. This seems like it's just like a 7-minute Saturday Night Live preparation skit. See on the star and give you a little monologue, you're off and running. But I got to see all the other 5 people before me, which is really a big blessing, because that was number one. I'd be screwed this time. I really be trouble. Find your discomfort level. You know, it's easy to find your comfort level. I put a dis. I always put that in there. I am still the shy, quiet, introverted, pay attention only to me kid. I've been 40 plus years since I grew up on North Road in Lake, New York. Very proud of that. Did grow up on a farm, didn't have cows. We had 30 acres, and I used every single one of those acres when I was a kid. Doing a lot of things by myself. Unfortunate, very shy. I was smart enough I could get by in things. I wasn't book smart, but I like to think I was life smart. The good thing about going to school in a small rural setting is you get to know everybody, which is a big benefit to you when you're especially a shy person. Still quiet, didn't talk to anybody. But still was a shy person, learned a lot, and I was pretty good at sports, so I got to take advantage of the sports situation at my high school, final high school in Cleveland, New York. Able to play baseball, basketball, and football, which was really good. I got to communicate in a different way where I never got to communicate before. Be a different person in a different way I never got to be before, which I was very happy with. Graduate school there. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I thought maybe I want to be in communications. Yeah, that's pretty odd. That's not on my comfort level. I want to do communications for it. So like I said, I was into sports, so I thought maybe I'd like to be a sports reporter. Television, radio, newspaper. I thought that was a great gig. I really enjoyed sports. I really enjoyed talking about them when I did talk, which wasn't very often, like I said. So I went to Marietta College in Southern Ohio. My degree actually is communication/sports journalism. Believe it or not. How many days of my life have I used my degree in sports journalism? Big zero! Big zero. After graduating college, I was fortunate enough to come back and work at home for the hometown newspaper, the Post-Journal, Jamestown Post-Journal, which we'll get to in a bit. But, discovered a lot of things I've learned, especially in high school and college. Interest inventory. You know, I'm going to talk about Myers-Briggs here in a little bit. That's what's in my mind actually too. So, when I was in middle school and high school, they didn't have Myers-Briggs. They had interest inventories. Good thing I learned about that because I wasn't sure what interest was and what an inventory was. So I got to learn that at the same time. That interest inventory said I was organized, good listener, honest, independent, responsible, good observer, and pay attention. That was a good one to me because I always felt that I don't want to get in trouble. That's why I pay attention. But little did I know that some of the things that I learned about later on even in college, luck favors prepared mind. Success in life is directly proportional to how much you pay attention. I can't stress that enough. First one, chance favors prepared mind, smartness favors prepared mind. That's something out there. This one's mine. I made this one up. Success in life is directly proportional to how much you pay attention. It is made up because nothing on Google matches that anywhere, which I'm very happy for. So I did my research for sure. So, success in life is directly proportional to how much you pay attention. I learned both these things in college. I was part of an organization, fraternity, very good fraternity on campus. We did a lot of social things and did a lot of educational things, that type of thing. But what I learned was one of my best friends in my life. His name is Michael Moffitt. He graduated at the top of his class a year after me in Marietta College. Went to Harvard Law School, graduated at the top of his class there. He is now a professor in charge of something at University of Oregon. But while you're at school there, one thing we did as a nice icebreaker, get together, get to know other people on campus. We worked with another organization with 40 men and women in this little game we were playing. Now don't try this now because you'll probably get in trouble. We use squirt guns on a college campus. Don't try that now. You'll probably get in a lot of trouble, so I'm going to make sure you warn you right now. What we did was 40 names into a hat. You pulled a name out of the hat, and there were prizes involved. So what you do, you have your squirt gun with water, by the way. You go around campus in your off times, sometimes between classes, on weekends, at nights, that type of thing. Your goal was to try to shoot as many people as possible, gain their person they pulled out of their hat. And at the end of this whole thing, you're going to see who shot the most people, who lived at the end, and you win prizes. So it was a nice little icebreaker like that. So we're going along, and I'm really ultra competitive, even though I'm very shy and revealing and such, but I'm ultra competitive. So I'm committed, I'm going to win this thing. Definitely going to win this thing. So we're going around, so we're a week or two in class and school, and we're shooting people up. There's like 5 or 6 people left, including myself and my friend Michael Moffitt. He put on a show that was like, I don't care about this thing. I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this? I don't want to do this. So he actually helped me track down a woman that was in our get together. So he knew her schedule more than I did. So we got home, got to her. I shot her. Got her. Claimed her little thing. I said, oh, hey, Mike, thanks. This is great. What are we going to do next? Bam! He shoots me. He knew all along that I was the person that he was going to shoot. So that's the biggest thing that I learned when I went along in college is plan ahead, be prepared, pay attention. Transitions into the Post-Journal. My first job out of college, 1990, worked for the Post-Journal. Like I said, never had to use my sports communication degree at all. They put me to work at Cattaraugus County as the Cattaraugus County Bureau Chief. You've got to be seen to be seen. That's what Mark Francis told me. He's my city editor my first day. You've got to be seen. So he gave me a big box of business cards, that's my name on it. Not to mention that I've never done anything other than sports in my life. He says, oh, you're gonna go talk to this department head, that department head, go see this director, go see this person. He trained me, he showed me that it's better to go see a person in person, don't use a phone. This is way before computers, way before internet. Go, you've got to be seen to be seen. Perfect, I get a little meter going with being comfortable. Thanks, my comfort level is going a little bit better. I'll go ahead and interest inventory. I'm sorry, I'm glad Larry's here. ISTJ, introverted, sensing, thinking, judging. That's one of the 16 in the Myers-Briggs guidelines there, the 4 little squares, 16 squares. I am self-proclaimed, introverted, sensing, thinking, judging. I put the I in ISTJ, by the way, just to let you know that. Now, I do a lot of public speaking and I always have. I'm not uncomfortable with that. I'm not nervous. I'm always prepared. It gets back into planning and the, pay attention. But I have lucky underwear when I go and speak. And guess what I'm wearing tonight? I am wearing my lucky underwear. What I want to show people is when you're going through even my personality type, you have certain triggers you want to follow or take advantage of when you're doing things you're not entirely comfortable with. Maybe it's socks. Maybe it's the same coffee you drink in the morning to get more work done. Maybe it's tapping your back twice on home plate before you get ready to hit the pitch. Maybe it's stepping on a line or not stepping on a baseline to get the job done to be better at what you're going on in your sports field. It's football, basketball, baseball. Okay. This is one of my favorite things. My wife is always yelling at me. She's saying, why do you watch so much TV and movies on TV? It's like, it's entertaining, but you're also gaining leadership skills by doing that. For example, most recent incarnation of Star Trek, Captain Pike right there. Chris Pine's the actor, he's Captain Kirk. They're in the bar. Kirk just got the snot beat out of him, and Captain Pike's talking about recruiting him because he sees something in Kirk to become a starship captain. He challenged him. Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes. My father wasn't. He saved 800 lives, including your mother's and yours. My father didn't do that. I dare you to do better. That's one thing I'll talk about as well whenever I've either spoken or talked to my daughters, my family, friends, public speaking and such. You don't have to do perfect. You can strive to do better. And that's what I always tell people as well. That gets involved with the planning and paying attention. Because if you pay attention, you can get anything else done you want in your life. Last thing here. I used to think my father-in-law did this. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. He's been using it for about 10 years. Used it mostly with my 2 daughters and my 2 nephews because they're the 4 grandchildren in the house. And then luckily for us that all 4 of them are high achievers, which we're very happy about. And they've got good parents and good grandparents especially. But my father-in-law started talking about this and he seemed to talk about patenting it or copyrighting or something like that. I thought, that sounds pretty good. That sounds not too bad. So you look it up and find out it's about 350 years old. But the whole semblance in the background of this is you can do good. You can do better. But don't be better until your good is good. You're better. But do your best. Don't be perfect. Do your best. And by doing your best, then mine is a self-awareness. If I plan ahead, prepare, pay attention, I am doing my best. That's what I say.
So I want to thank everybody first off for coming in tonight, because I want to be time myself. This has been really what I've hoped for, and I think what we all hope for. And just the fact that we don't have our phones, we're actually listening to each other and hearing stories about each other has just been such a joy, and so that makes me happy. My name is Jane Fisher. I am class of 2001, so the second most senior here. And I'll be serious for a second. To me, this is the face of leadership. Leadership can be ugly. Leadership can feel like, you can feel like you've been knocked down. You got people standing over you, waiting for you to do the next thing. It can be a little awkward, you can look a little weird. You're thinking about, what am I doing down here and how am I gonna get up? That's me. So pretty. In the middle, and that was actually, that shot was taken 2 weeks ago at our improv-a-thon. Yes, the improv-a-thon, where we did 49 and a half hours straight of improv comedy, and where I do improv comedy at Comedy Sports Buffalo, on the corner of Main and Harlem in Snyder, New York. Come see us. And I've been doing improv comedy for about 16 years now. For the first 15 years, was part of the Unexpected Guests in Jamestown, and we did our last show just almost about a year ago now. And so I've been with Comedy Sports in the last year. 15 years ago or so was when the Whose Line Is It Anyway American version started to be popular. And who's seen it? And we were sitting around one night at karaoke at Mr. D's, which was before Forte, so that's how long ago it was. And we were sitting around at karaoke like you do, and watching one of the shows, and said, there should be an improv group in Jamestown. Beat. We should start one in Jamestown. So leadership lesson number 1, don't wait for other people to do it. If you can do it, do it. Well, we didn't have improv training other than, hey, that's funny, and listen to me, yuck, yuck, yuck. So just so happened, serendipity called, and the Bunbury Theater was happening at the time, and a group of folks had come down, and one of the folks that had been involved was a guy named Eric Hansmith, who I also played with at Comedy Sports now, Circle Gets a Square, and Eric had just moved to Jamestown and offered to become our coach, and he had been doing Comedy Sports for a number of years, and so that's how actually I learned on the Comedy Sports model. It's very fortuitous. And we did improv. Once a week we got together and rehearsed. Yes, you do rehearse improv. You rehearse the sort of the structure of the games that you play. You rehearse the rules, you practice the rules, you have group norms. You don't rehearse the content, but yes, it is important to actually practice improv. I'm actually missing a Comedy Sports practice tonight. I told them that because this is my first slide, it's an excused absence, so it's okay, because I'm actually doing improv in the spirit. One of the things that happened, though, after we went about 4 years into it, was I started to realize that some things were kind of changing in the way that I was working, the way that I was thinking, the way that I was relating to others. And I also recognized that coming out of these Monday practices, felt like I had just been to the gym without the pesky thing of going to the gym. That I felt a little bit flushed, I was energized, but it was like, oh, this feels great. Because I had just laughed for 2 hours, physical comedy also, with people who were friends. And that laughter and that sort of mental activity as well really became something that I am proudly and completely a complete nerd about. And I'm very happy to be a big improv nerd. Started to realize some of these things. That the traits of a good improviser are not, improv is not people just getting up on a stage and telling a one-liner, telling jokes. Improv and stand-up are very different. Have a number of people throughout the years with the Unexpected Guests, and even in time with Comedy Sports, will come up and say, I want to join your improv group, I'm a stand-up, I like stand-up comedy. That's great. I want to fly a plane because I drove a fire truck once. They're both vehicles, but they're very, very different. Skill sets are different that are called upon. Relationships, planning, all these different things are happening between the two. Yes, they're both comedy, hopefully, but they're very, very different. Improv is about creating in the moment, reacting in the moment at the top of your intelligence. It's about accepting, reacting, and acting forward. Traits of a good improviser is we have to listen to others. We can't be in our head off stage going, oh, I'm going to drop the greatest line because what they just said was amazing. Here, I'm going to come with this, and I'm going to make this. Meanwhile, a scene has happened, and I've missed it because I've been off stage planning on what amazing thing I'm going to do instead of what's happening out here. We agree and support. Yes, and. You know, two words about improv, you know yes and. Yes and is to accept, acknowledge, say, this is real, this just happened, this exists, and then the and is the building on it. So you accept and you combine. The yes and is a wonderful thing in conflict resolution, for example. As a leader, I've called upon yes and a number of times. To simply have somebody come into your office in crisis, either through tears or through anger, either at me or at somebody else, to say, la la la, this isn't happening, This isn't real. If I shut the door, you don't exist. If I don't look at you, if I turn on my computer, you're not here. You have to acknowledge the uncomfortable in front of you, and the and is building on it and making something useful from it. You respect your partner. You do everything that you can to make them look good. It's not about you out there on the stage. It's about their partner and about the scene and about what is being created. When you take the attention off of yourself and put it onto others, really wonderful things can happen. A good improviser also respects their partner and believes in working together. You recognize that it's not, again, about yourself. It's about what's happening on the stage. You don't feel failure, because in 16 years of doing improv, I have dropped a lot of scenes and a lot of lines that have not gone over well at all. I have done some things that were just crickets. I've done some things that have been great laughs. And I've done things where I've been out there and completely frozen, or called somebody by a wrong name establishing the scene, etc. You fail all the time, and you have to be okay with it. You also exude a good energy. You have to be positive. Coming into rehearsals, when you're trying to create all of these wonderful things with your teammates, you have to have a certain sense of positivity around you, and you have to be comfortable being silly. The mug I drink out of on a regular basis is a quote mug from the great Amy Poehler, who was my spirit animal. Even I want to be her when I grow up, even though she's 2 months younger than me. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but I will be her someday. And her mug, the mug says, "There's power in looking silly and not caring that you do." And so that's my life. So once I realized this through some of the improv practice, I thought, I wonder if anybody else knows this. I wonder if anybody else has realized how some of these lessons of improv can go off the stage and really affect your life and your work. I wonder if anybody knows this. Google, Google, Google. Thousands. Thousands of people know this. Books have been written on it, seminars have been given on it, there's all sorts of things going on. There's a whole network called the Applied Improvisation Network. So I hooked myself up to them, and so for the last 10 years or so I've been involved with the Applied Improv Network. And taking this love of this thing that I do for fun, and also created a business out of it and created some work out of it. And these are my loves. Now along the way, some people were saying to me when I first started, because we are, again, one of the first sort of comedy groups in Jamestown, I actually had people with whom I work either directly or indirectly say, you know, people aren't going to take you seriously if you do this. Your credibility is going to be shot. You don't look very professional up there doing refer to first line. I internalized it and I thought, wow, they're right. So this thing that I really love and that's really sort of lights me up, I can't do it. I can't do them both. Then I found thousands of people out there who created a network and said, I bet these people tell me I can do it. And so I reframed my perspective and I thought, how might I? How might I take this love and this discovery that I have and this energy that I know is true for me, and I've seen it in others with the workshops we did do, how might we reframe the perspective of all work has to be very linear and very serious, and if you crack a smile, you're not taking this seriously, and smiling does not equal professionalism. And if you make a pun, forget about it. If you make a pun in a meeting, you lose your degree, you're on suspension, and I'm pretty sure they're going to come and take your cat. So all of these different things happen. So I reframed my perspective about how might I really think about this in a new way. We talked about Maslow earlier. Carrie brought up Maslow. Look at circle bits and other squares. See how connections work? Aren't they fun? Almost all creativity involves purposeful play. That is what I do once a week. That is what we all do. The lessons that we heard tonight about being on the farm and playing sports and all of these wonderful things, the dancing with your wife, this purposeful play. Play has a purpose. Play can be wonderful and just sort of catch me, but play can also be, remember the time when you're little, and let's pretend the tree is a rocket ship, and you're going to be the first space commander, and over there that's lava. Be how might it, and what might be, and what else is this? When else can we use this in life? All the time. We have this budget deficit. How might we turn this around? The service that we offer, how might we alter it in order to do something else? That spirit of how might we, that playfulness, that creativity has to come from somewhere. We have Office Depot and Staples and Office Max and Dunder Mifflin and all these places that will tell you and sell you all these planners to show you how to get more organized and more efficient, and there's all sorts of manuals in terms of how to do these things linear. There is no app for being spontaneous. You know what the app is? What I do every Monday night. You learn how to practice some of these things that don't come in a planner, that you can't just sort of download for an app for greater efficiency. There is a way to learn to defer judgment, to be spontaneous, to accept offers and build on offers, to combine new things, to redefine failure, to expand your performance range. Don't just simply say, oh, I'm not an idea person, I'm a detail person. I don't want to do the ideas, I want to do this part. Expand your performance range. Don't play the same character. Be an idea person. If you're an idea person and really struggle with implementation, by the way, you can't just simply say, well, that's not me, I'm not going to do that. No, expand your performance range. Learn how to do that. Learn how to be uncomfortable. Learn how to deal with dislocation. There's no way to practice that until places like this. This is a Creative Problem Solving Institute. I hooked up with them in that I yes-anded myself, and when I found the Applied Improv Network, I also yes-anded and said, how might I take it even further? So happened that an improv partner had gone through the Creativity and Change Leadership Program at the Center, International Center for Studies in Creativity, right up the road at Buff State, where creative problem solving is born, by the way. There's a whole mecca of creativity just an hour through it. And I hooked myself up with them, and I've been a leader and presenter at the Creative Problem Solving Institute for the last 5 years, and it is a time where hundreds of people from literally around the world get together and engage in creative thinking for about 6 days. It's amazing. And it's not the least bit fun, by the way. But it's a lot of how might we's and a lot of new ways of thinking. There's design thinking, there's applied improvisation, there's creative problem solving tools and techniques. There's all these different ways to learn how to be creative. You're not born creative or not. You're not just simply saying not creative, not it. You can learn how to be deliberately creative. And why does that matter? People don't want to follow a leader into the future. They want to co-create it. So by learning and practicing these ways of deliberate creativity and improvisational thinking and mindsets, we can create a space, we can create a system by which we can have co-creation that works in a way that is forward-moving, deliberate, intentional, but also improvisational and co-creational. So, as I leave you, we start every improv show for the last 16 years with the unexpected guest to comedy sports and any other group that I've stepped on the stage with. We always start with the beginning saying, players, are you ready, before you take the stage. But even before we do that, we're backstage and we tap each other on the back and say, got your back, got your back, got your back. So I challenge you with 2 different things tonight. Think about in what ways you can literally let people know that you have their back as they move forward with the uncomfortable, as they move forward with discovering their strengths, finding their life story, being human and dealing with all of the things of leading every day. Relationships, building your relationships, dealing with dislocation and relocation, and finding your comfort level. How can you let somebody know that you have their back when they're doing that for themselves or you're doing it together? And then I ask you, players, are you ready? Thank you for coming to the inaugural 7in7 event tonight, and we hope to do this again. Would you like to see this again? Yes. Thank you, CLN, for everything that you do and for allowing us to bring this into the reality. Thank you, Tracy, for making the magic happen with bells and whistles, for Barry for the support for the committee, and for all of you for being here. And just go share your story with somebody tonight. Thank you.